and welcome to Game Brain, a board game podcast about our gaming group. I'm Ben Mandelker, and today I'm joined with Mr. Thomas Donnelly. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Ben. I'm going to come in high energy because you were just very subdued. It was very, I don't know what's going on there.
It was chill.
We had a very late game night.
Yeah, we had a late game night, but also, it's just like a chill summer weekend, and so we're coming in with chill vibes.
Summertime and the living's easy.
Don't worry, the energy is up and big, because you know who else is here? Mr. Paul Satachit.
Ow! Hey, everyone. Hey. We're hiding from the heat in Tom's air-conditioned office.
Oh, It's so nice.
It's nice and
it was
cool.
Too air-conditioned for Candace last night.
It got cold for Candace, never too cold for me. I love it and nice. And you know what's funny? In the summertime, I love just an icy cold air-conditioned room, where it's like 65 degrees. But then in the wintertime,
I want it hot and toasty.
if it's 65, I'm like, it's too cold.
I'm the exact same way. I understand it is not an energy-forward way of looking at things, and yet the heart wants what it wants.
Exactly.
I'm actually an all cold all the time person.
But you're often wearing jackets. You will wear your down jacket inside. Is that why?
That's because my body has thermal control. We are adapted to do that.
Well, I guess my question is this. Okay, so for me, when I sleep, I like it to be really cold in the room, and then I bundle myself under a comforter because I like to be cozy. Does that the same thing why you wear sort of like a down jacket? The air will be on, and you'll put on a down jacket.
May I, Tom?
Oh, go ahead.
I think I actually wear it for weight. If
If
I think about it,
the heavy blanket thing,
It's like a thunder vest,
a thunder shirt, but thunder,
for a dog.
Ben, if you and Dom ever break up and you need a boyfriend, I don't know if I can get into all of the aspects of your lifestyle, but we match so well on the cold room with the hot blanket, and you can adjust your temperature that way. The cool in the summer indoors, hot in the winter indoors.
Right.
And so many people I know have major marital and relationship disputes over this exact issue. The thermostat is the barometer of relationships.
It goes thermostat, infidelity, and money in that order.
In that
Probably,
order. Yeah. Well, let's take some temperature. Let's take the temperature on some games. You guys, we were gonna
Segway master.
I was like, okay, I'm at a crossroads. I can either bring up tinned fish because we were talking about it before the podcast.
Let's let it come up naturally, because it will be something that we will end up talking about with one of the topics we're on. Right?
Are you going to talk about fresh fish again and then weave it into tinned fish?
Oh my God, that'd be so good.
It's a sequel to Fresh Fish.
It'd be a great sequel.
You're basically you get scored by how far you are from various places.
Yeah, well, you could. The game would be like the array of fish that you can put into a tin, and some are really nice, like a razor clam, but they have a high margin. So
see how organic this came up already. It already came up.
It's beautiful.
And it already seems like a splatter game to me. Tin fish, I'm into it.
I think that it would be a fresh fish variant in which the different stores have relative tolerances in terms of how far they can be from certain buildings.
Yeah.
Right? Because some squid, octopus, that sort of stuff goes bad almost immediately. Your store has to be really, really close to the distribution site. Mm-hmm. But something like a salted cod, you can put it anywhere on the board.
Just put it out on the bench. I'm surprised. I'm surprised Vital Lacerda has not actually come up with a tinned fish sort of game, because he does hail from Portugal, which the Iberian Peninsula, as you mentioned before, is capital, especially Portugal. Portugal has a huge tinned fish culture. I'm surprised he has not come up with some sort of brain burnery game that's all about packing mackerel and sardines and oysters.
I saw a statistic a while ago. I don't know if it's still true. I don't know if it was true, but it sounded to come from somewhat of an authority that said the two people on the planet that eat the most fish are the Japanese and the Spaniards.
Oh.
And I'm not sure why Portugal isn't there. I think they probably should be, right? I think if they're not number 3, then
sounds like a study that was written by either a Spaniard or a Japanese person.
Maybe, but I think it's because the tinned fish business is it's large Spanish companies that dominate all that.
Got it.
I would have to push against that. I imagine there is an island country that the only protein is fish, and that is the protein that they eat. Whereas,
Pitcairn Islands.
Like I'm just saying, like I would push back against.
Is Pitcairn a country?
No, it's not actually. I think it's a territory.
I think so.
But still, I think the point still would stand that there's probably still
like a smaller country that.
So Micronesia,
Tuvalu.
Sure, like someone, yeah, someone. I have to believe
Nauru,
so some country with a flag, its own flag.
Palau,
Solomon Islands,
like, Cook Islands.
Like there isn't a lot of cow being eaten there. I don't imagine.
Fiji.
You guys are doing great.
Christmas Island.
Welcome to Island Talk, everyone.
Tonga.
Okay, let's talk about some,
Wallace and Futura.
even though
I could go all day. See, here's the thing. Ben and I both do the same world geography. We do a lot of geography puzzle games every single day. And so we just went through like the laundry list of the hard to find countries when you're trying to.
Obviously, I just did a Wikipedia search on the Pitcairn Islands last night. So anyway, games. And by the way, half
we could
these islands
talk.
have
We could
alternative
do
board
an entire
games.
episode on Pitcairn. It is fascinating.
Really?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the survivors and how many of the survivors.
Stop, guys. We're playing games here.
Pitcairn. Okay, no Pitcairn. Okay.
It's amazing.
It's funny. You said the two. So, according to a study, the two countries that consume the most fish or whatever, you said one of them was Japan.
Japan and Spain.
So funny that you should mention that because one of the games, the first game I would like to mention that I played recently, I would like to talk about the wonderful, wonderful game Iki.
Still trying to sell it.
Still trying to sell. Iki has been on a tremendous journey. It started as a teeny game, small distribution, championed by a podcaster who just had brilliant foresight and taste.
$1 and a dream. That's all he had when he came here.
I'm talking about myself, everyone.
Surprise.
This was obviously, for anyone who listened to this podcast, a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, there's this hidden gem I love. Anyway, it was kind of, it was sort of brought out of obscurity by a publisher. Sorry, we're French. They published it. It got great reviews. Of course, it would get great reviews. It's a great game. It's done very, very well for itself. It recently was nominated for the Kennerspiel de Jahres, which to me, I was like, this is the wonderful journey for this game that was small and overlooked. And now here it is, like up for one of the biggest awards in board gaming.
And it got beaten by Twister.
It got beaten by Twister. I don't know the game that won was something called Crusaders. I don't know anything about it. And I'm going.
What, Crusaders Rex?
I have no idea. I have no idea what Crusaders.
I believe that is I got to check, but it might be the game. It might be Seth Jaffe's game. Seth Jaffe.
It's not his. It's not.
Okay, so not
Crusaders. Thy will be done, or whatever.
Got it. Okay.
But this game, Crusaders, won. So congratulations to that game. Don't know anything about it. We'll look into it. I'm sure we'll have lots of hot takes about it because it beat my beloved Iki. Anyway,
well, I love games that have non-controversial topics. Continue.
Crusading.
I
think it's like I saw the image. It looked sort of like fun and silly. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is not only to herald the wonderful game that is Iki, but also an expansion for Iki just came out called Akanebo. And I just played the expansion with Candace and Jordan yesterday. And I really enjoyed it. I'm now at this before I get into it, I will say that I'm at a place now where I'm like, do I buy the new Iki again? Because I had the old Iki.
Is this your third? Would this be your third?
It would be my third. Well, I had the old Iki. I bought the new Iki for when we reviewed the new Iki.
But famously got rid of it, because he liked the art on the old one better.
I liked the art in the old one. I felt very connected to the old one, even though the new one is arguably the better version. It has some rules tweaks. The graphic design is cleaner and easier. So it really is the one to get. I was like, but you know what, though? This is special. The old one's special. I'm going to keep it. So I gave it to my friend Brendan, who I mentioned last week, who got me
Brendan Fong,
who got me Robotrick and Schadenfreude from Japan last week.
Oh, good for him. Good for you.
Yeah. And I gave it to him. I was like, here you go. And now I'm like, oh, this expansion's fun. Do I have to get the game again and the expansion? Is this what's going to happen?
Oh no!
I don't. Matt and I played the new Burgundy box, Castles of Burgundy. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a point where we're playing with our wives, and my wife goes like, "Oh, we should buy this," and I was going like, "Oh no."
Yeah. It's I mean, Should we mention that we're going to review a game? I mean, we hinted at it last week.
Yeah, we should. We are going to, speaking of Stefan Feld, designer of Castles of Burgundy, we are going to do a deep dive on Amsterdam later this episode. So
stick on by.
Hang on in there. But speaking of Stefan Feld, man, the thing about Castles of Burgundy is it'll leave my mind for a very long period of time, and my eyes will pass over it on the shelf.
Yes.
Anytime I bring it out and actually play the game, I instantly fall back, and it's like that high school girlfriend that you never quite
familiar.
Well, I understand. I'll go gender neutral. It is the high school flame that can still occasionally.
I had no high school flame.
Oh, you poor guy. You pour guy.
I was a high school
and
flame.
yet you made it here so far. You made it so far, Ben. Good for you.
It
anyway,
pops back up again, and I'm just smitten all over again. It's such a good game.
Yeah, it is wonderful. I don't often reach for it just because it's been reached for so many times. It's like so many games. But
it's like the village bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's had a ride.
It's true. In this case with Burgundy. So with Iki, for those who want to know about what this expansion's all about, first of all, the base game, in case you don't know about it, you're basically, there's a marketplace and you're going through the marketplace and you are hiring vendors essentially and you're putting them in stalls and you're visiting those vendors and getting their wares, but you're also hoping other people visit those vendors.
Are you going to explain the whole game of Iki for a third time on the podcast?
You know what? Let's talk about fresh fish. Should we do that? Let's go back to fresh fish.
No.
But wait,
tell us about what I want to know about is Akabono.
I know, and you were going to hear about it very soon. So I'm just giving a literal general overview, which is that you're just going around a marketplace, going to the vendors, etc. It's a big rondel game. So what Akanobo does is that it adds on a sideboard that's kind of like a harbor, and there's little boats there, and so it adds another space onto the rondel. And when you go there, there are these boats that I mentioned, and the boats have different actions, and you can use the actions.
Is it like a floating market?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so you can use the boat actions, and when you use someone else's boat, because everyone has a chance, you can build a boat by just the way in the game you can build buildings. And so instead of building a building, you can build a boat instead. And so if someone uses your boat, you advance up this boat track. And the advantage of the boat track is that it gives you additional income, but the income only comes after fires, because there are 3 fires in the game that cause lots of stress and drama. And so when the fires hit, afterwards you can get some income based on how far up you are in the boat track. And additionally, there's some other little things. In the boat area, you can also welcome in a personality or a celebrity, and that gives you sort of an ongoing power or maybe an instant thing that happens. And
K-pop bands and the
K-pop, yeah, it was really, really impressive. Or J-pop in this case. And then there's some adjustments to the...
I'll allow that.
So there's also some tweaks into how the flop of cards come out in terms of every season in the game. Every round of the game, there are sort of the vendors that you could possibly hire. There's a flop of cards. And so there's been a slight adjustment on that, which sort of moves them a little.
So does the expansion make it better for you? Would you play without the expansion?
So I would say I don't think it's an essential expansion, but I think it's a fun expansion. If I had the expansion, I probably would always play with the expansion. But if you don't have the expansion, I don't think that you... I don't think it's a situation where I must have the expansion. But because I love Iki, and I'm I kind of feel
Iki
like
fan.
I want to have all things Iki, I am probably going to get the base game and the expansion. I will say the thing that I think is the best about the expansion is when we talk about that floating boat market, there's always a boat that sells fish and tobacco and pipes. And in the game, those 3 resources... you are trying to buy them for set collection, and they are really limited. And if you miss them, you miss them. And there can sometimes be a feeling I was building towards this set, but for this round, I didn't get the fish. And now, is it worth it for me to continue with this set? It kind of doesn't feel worth it. What do I do now? There can be sort of a hopeless feeling. And so it just gives one more opportunity to get those elements that you need for your set. And what I really liked was I had the boat that had that stuff. I that was a boat that I selected, and I liked that I was sitting there playing with Candace and Jordan, and I was like, "Hey guys, so does anyone want to come to my boat? I know you want this fish. I know Candace, you're trying to get that fish. Come get this fish." And one of the best parts about Iki is that you do sort of like seamlessly step into the role of someone at a market being like, come on, come over to my stall. Like, you want some, you need some fish? You need some fish? Come on, I got fish for you. You might as well get fish now. I mean, don't wait till there. Like, you never know. Like,
It's fresh.
This is the good fish.
The fish is fresh.
Fresh fish.
All things come back to fresh fish.
And done. Thank you, everyone. This has been the Game Brain Podcast.
That's right.
I mean, we could even shoehorn it into Amsterdam if we have to.
Yeah.
We really could.
Yeah.
So anyway, I really enjoyed it. I will probably get it. We'll probably bring it to game night.
You'll probably buy your third Iki set and then make some choices after that.
I probably will, because it is honestly such a good game. I mean, Tom, have you played Iki? I forget.
I have never played Iki.
Okay,
is this why you're so salty?
This is why I am so
salty like a
stubborn.
like a cod fish.
I
Salty
am
like a salt cod.
I am like a salt cod that has been unwashed.
Now it all makes
I'm just
sense.
dripping in salt
There you go.
right now.
Oh yeah, you would love it. I think you would really love it.
I don't know. I had a friend that was really, really into it, and he never invited me to play. It was very sad.
Oh, I think the last few times I played, I've been here actually. So
Oh, my bad.
yeah,
My bad.
What can I say?
The problem, of course, is the same problem with Matt and I and everybody else is that when we're, like last night we had 11 people. We have to split up into these different games, and invariably,
You're so popular.
How
You're
can
just
Ben and I play a game together if we need another game teacher at a different game? So it's hard sometimes for us to play together on the larger game.
I don't know. I think yesterday was an example of how the new format will go. Like, everyone fend for themselves.
I have to say, I do think
Mike Kananak had an epic night. We can talk about it more if we want to.
Keep it
But
the game
now.
night.
I'm done with Iki. Iki's great. Everyone should buy Iki. I think Iki is a collection essential. And if you want, get the expansion, Akanebo.
Akebono.
Akabono.
I was like, don't correct him, don't correct him. Yeah.
No, you should. For something like that, you really should.
Akebono. Yes, exactly.
King of the night.
Yeah. So he was king of the night. So we split up into we had to play our game, and that was you and me and Paul. So we had some heavy hitters in our game. Candace was here, and so Candace was running a game of Age of Discovery.
No, Terra Nova.
Terra Nova, right?
In
Terra Nova, that's right.
anticipation.
In anticipation of Age of Discovery.
Age of Discovery.
Except
Age
precisely
of
right.
Innovation, I believe.
And then Mike Kanack said, "You know what? I'm gonna take the rest of these people, and I'm gonna teach them innovation, and we're gonna play some smaller games." They played some trick takers, and he just table captained up and crushed it.
Yeah.
Possibly riding off of one of the hallmark moments in Avalon history. He just the bad guys had lost horribly.
Yeah.
They were floundering, trying to figure out who is Merlin. It could be anybody. And Mike was the assassin and just said, I think it's Aiden. No, You know what? I'm not going to be moved. You guys are making strong arguments for this and the other thing. Nope, it's Aiden. Aiden, are you Merlin? And he's like, damn, yes, I am. And there were like no
amazing.
clues. It
And
was just...
Yeah, no one... I was thinking to myself, okay, this... Because Mike is like a chaotic player. Like, you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's just...
Smokescreen.
He is... They call him Smokescreen for a reason, because you really never know what you're going to get with Mike. And he will do something wild. He'll be like, well, I think that the Merlin... the ghost of Tina Turner, so I'm going to assassinate the ghost of Tina Turner. And you're like, what? You can't even do that. You can't do that. But he got it. He got it.
And then at the end of the night, we played another game, and it was a disaster. Everyone was super tired.
So it was Mike, Trey, and I. We were the bad guys, and then Mike and Trey were on a mission that didn't fail, that they were going to fail, and then Trey basically gave up. He goes, Jordan goes, Trey, why did you look sad when the mission passed? And Trey was like, because I'm bad.
And I was looking at Trey when this was happening too, and I saw it, and I was like, do I bring it up? And Jordan brought it up, and I was like, I would bring it up later, but I'm like, oh my God, this is just amazing. And so good guys, 3 missions in a row. Bad guys had very little information. Mike Kananek again was the assassin.
Not a fluke. It wasn't a fluke.
With little to no information, like very little to go on. Just said
nothing.
Chris, you You're Merlin. Are you Merlin?
And I was
It's like,
oh, God.
damn it.
And it was
Yes.
like 2 wild shots in the dark, and they both hit.
And table captaining, it was a rare all Mike Cananak night, and I love to see it. It was fantastic.
But Mike, now that you listen to the podcast, now we know where the expectation level is. You have to perform at this level all the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike. Otherwise,
you just promoted yourself, bud.
Yeah. No, it was I guess, when you do play these, these games like Avalon, we've obviously talked a lot like, oh, we shouldn't talk about Avalon, but only for special things or whatever. But one of the reasons why social deduction games or these big group games can be so fun is that you never really know when there is going to be kind of that like magical moment that can spring out of it. It doesn't matter what
Magic Mike.
Like when Mike took off his shirt and started giving a lap dance.
He goes, hey guys, you want to see Magic Mike XL?
Yeah. By the way, along these lines of Avalon, a few weeks ago on the pod we talked about Tortuga 1667, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I was really excited when I bought that game back in May. It was like the small game that I found at the Complete Strategist in New York City.
A little baby game.
And I was like...
Mecca.
And I was like, ooh, I think I found a gem. I mentioned that we had played like I played like a 6-player game in May. That was very fun. We tried to do like a 10-player game a few weeks ago. Wasn't a full success.
It was the wrong...
It wasn't the game's fault.
It was the timing.
The vibe was
100% timing. 100% timing.
It was one of those things where people wanted to play. I thought it was going to be a 30-minute game because the previous game had been like 35 to 40 minutes. And this one went much longer because it was a bigger group and people wanted to play other games. So people were like, the vibe was not right for it.
Never underestimate what certain members of our play group can extend a game into as far as channeling. Okay, we are, and I put myself into that category sometimes too. We are capable of making this very long.
Yeah. So, I actually had quite a good time during the time that we played. We ultimately just actually cut it short because it's like otherwise there will be no big chunky games afterwards. But a few days ago, Paul and I actually went to Barnes & Noble, and right there on the shelf is Tortuga 1667.
Ooh.
So it turns out it's a little bit more mass market. So here I thought I found a hidden gem. No, Barnes & Noble, everyone. Yeah. You can get it at
Barnes & Noble, Toys R Us, Target.
To be fair, Barnes & Noble is stepping up their game.
They're stepping up, but still, like when they step it up, they have it's still pretty. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty big games, like pretty well-known games. Although they do have they have Cloud Age there.
Yeah,
sort of random.
There was the last. There's Wingspan. We're going. Here's all these things that they have, and
there's Tortuga.
There's Tortuga, right?
And Tortuga, for people who don't know, is sort of like it's sold in this. It looks like a book, and it's actually several games by that publisher come looking like they're in little books. So there were like 3 or 4 of those different types of games that were there, like Salem. They all have like a name and then a date afterwards. So anyway, Tom, that was your first time getting like a taste of Tortuga. It seemed like you actually were having a pretty good time with it.
I was having a pretty good. Listen, I think that one of the things that happened was one of the very first cards that came up knocked really out one of the 2 rowboats.
Yeah,
or tenders, or whatever you want to call it, but pinnaces, I think is what that would be in certain other games. And that pinnace. That's what it is in Francis Drake.
That's the wood. That's the wood. The wood
in Francis Drake, that's what it is.
I would love to have one. I guess I have pinnace envy.
It is, and that really constrained the play space in a way that I'm not sure is indicative of the game as a whole. Yeah, but I had a great time. I had a great time playing it. I would love to try it again.
It would be fun to see how the meta in that game would develop because in that game, like, it is similar to all these social deduction games where like you do kind of want to lie on bluff and say, are you French? Are you French? Are you English? Are you maybe Dutch? And I was trying to do the honest game to see how that would play. But it turns out that everyone was able to suss out everyone's position pretty well. But who knows if there still were several rounds and there could have been some.
It's exciting for me because I feel like after Avalon, I don't think we've played a game where I go like, oh, this is worth investment in the what you call it, the transitory condition of finding out a meta. Like,
I don't know if this is going to be that game. The reason being that the only way I start to figure out whether or not you're British or Dutch or French, yeah, is when you move a treasure chest to the British point scorer or to the French point scorer, right? That's it.
Well, to push back, like, when I played it, the first thing I did was I exiled Trey. So it looked like he was British, or he presented British. I exiled him, and the boat was gone, so it was just me and Ben. And then Ben goes like, "Oh, Paul must be French," and so we're in this team together. And then I exiled Ben, and I was actually British. So there's a lot of I can see the potential for a lot of like switching back and forth depending on. So like I would be interested to see how the meta develops, because I absolutely agree with you what you're saying, Tom. But like I don't know in the steady state what it would wind up being.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that since the only decision is very binary and you can't do something, if you're pretending to not be what you are, you're actively helping the other side win.
Yes, but I totally agree and see that. However, the way that I push back is that because the game does have a certain amount of length to it. I learned in that game with Paul, and actually even the game before it, I sort of did a semi-honest thing, was that if I really revealed my true intentions, then if I found myself out of power, I was really out of power. So I'm like, oh, next time I play it, I'm actually just gonna like try to lie for as long as possible until finally I can do the switcheroo. So I think but that's the tension of it, right? Because if you lie too much, you actually are helping the other side. But if you reveal too early, you could find yourself in a situation where they just don't allow you onto a pirate ship and you can't control anything.
I guess that's the other part of it, is like add the out of power aspect to the game is Tortuga fun? Like when you're on Tortuga, is it at all fun?
I would say the same with is Avalon fun without a meta where all of a sudden you're just doing things that are what we would call wrong, and it's just random. So that's why that's why I think
I want to play more.
Some scholarship would be interesting.
I would say so far it's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, so far, and I do agree.
How much did it cost?
I think it was like $30.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be a worth investment if you had a big game group that you like to play a social.
People.
Yeah,
and I do think that I do agree that card that closed down a rowboat really made it. I think that if you're playing with a big group of people and they've never played before, and then you have a situation like that really kind of alters the normal flow of the game, that is hard. But the game, by the way, it's a very chaotic game where there's a lot of cards that get revealed and surprises, and the designers basically saying the rules look, you can choose which cards you want to have in there. It's not a big deal.
Right.
You can have it be a random flop. You can choose which cards to be in there. You can have it that they're all aware. They're very open to. Sure. I think they just want you to have fun and play with the roles.
Cool. Do you guys know if I talked about the new Wiz War? Did I talk about it?
No, I didn't. I saw this actually in the document. And I was I did not know this.
Is Wiz War like Fresh Fish?
This is
new Wiz War.
There is Water Wall in the game. That's a spell that you can cast. But other than that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how we're gonna shoehorn a fish into the story. But
okay, we'll see.
So I got the 9th edition of Wiz War.
Now, how many editions have you bought? You have the OG.
Probably 9. I don't know. I mean, I bought a lot of editions of it over the years. I got a very, very old brown box edition that I still love and cherish to this day.
Your Iki.
It kind of is.
Wait,
it kind of is.
So you have the old brown box version.
Yep.
And you have the 9th edition.
And I had and sold the Gussied Up Fantasy Flight edition. And
did you sell it because you didn't? They made changes that you didn't like.
Yes.
So the point is this:
they tried to make it a real game.
But so the point is this, though: me getting Iki and having OG Iki is not crazy.
Well, no. The point is,
of course not.
The point is you two are basically the same person.
Do you know how many?
We are.
We
have the same
should be dating. Do you know how many? Do you know how many editions of Democker I own?
Oh, I thought
the answer is one of all of them. Every single one, going all the way back to the Blue Box First Edition. I go
one of today.
But is there one to rule them all?
Yes, the Mosquito Edition. Exactly right. 2nd edition, fantastic.
Even I know that, Paul.
Come on,
stop.
So the 9th edition is they got the rights back to it, and Steve Jackson Games put it out. Now, I have a tremendous nostalgic fondness for Steve Jackson games because when I was playing games before this hobby existed, really.
Before you invented this hobby.
I do not claim to. But there were these little plastic boxes with really cheap pull tabs on the side when you would open it up, and it'd just be paper map and little chits that were the thinnest. Like, to call it cardboard is an insult to cardboard. They were the thinnest little things. And there were games like Ogre. There were games like Illuminati. There was the Awful Green Things from Space. There were these games that were just these little pocket games. You could put it in the back pocket of your Wrangler jeans and go off and play these games with some friends. And for its time, they were an absolute delight. They were amazing. They were the only Toys R Us, non-Parker Brothers type games that were out there.
Where did you get them? At hobby shops?
Yes. Yes.
Which I feel like hobby shops are a thing of the past. Do they even exist anymore?
They're basically the same thing as friendly local game stores. That's basically the same thing. I will say that in Japan, they are still exactly the same things. There's a floor where you go for the models and the model planes and all that sort of stuff, and then the next floor has the games. So I have a great fondness for them. Car Wars was another one that you would have in those little boxes. Going back to them, are they great? No, they were not great. But when
they were literally great. They were great.
They were past tense great.
They might not hold up to today's standards.
Correct.
But
they don't.
Yeah.
But getting the rights back to Wiz War and okay, we're going to put out actual Wiz War again. The problem with Fantasy Flight put out a gorgeous, gorgeous game. And I really believe that their heart was in the right place. They're like, we are going to blow your mind. We're going to take a beloved classic and we are going to update it. We're going to add Euro rules and we're going to add a magic system to it. And we're just going to trick it out. And people are going to have their minds blown. And we played it and we didn't love it. We were just like, it kind of took all of the fun. It was a beer and pretzels game that they made into Trismegistus. They made it into a medium weight Euro or a light medium weight Euro, and it just didn't spark. It didn't spark at all. And I acknowledge the work and time that went into it, and the design of it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous game.
Too many notes.
Yeah, just horrible. Horrible. So when they were going to put it back to its roots, I was like, oh, can't wait. I've played it. I had a great time playing it. I am going to hang on to it and keep it. But I got some notes for Steve Jackson games. I don't like.
This is the new ninth
edition that is just out.
So you have it.
I have it. We've played it several times. It's like if you're going to put out a ninth edition, like what they did was they went old school and they went. It looks graphically like my brown box edition very much, with a couple updates, but pretty much, which means it looks kind of junky. It's not great. It's not great, right? It's not great, which is fine if you're going for that nostalgia thing. But then follow through. Like, there are not enough cards. There are not enough spells in this game. Like, there's enough to play kind of the basic game, but when you're coming off of Fantasy Flight that had, 5 different magic classes and so many different spells and all that sort of stuff, and when you're looking back at Classic Wiz War, I had, several expansions. The game that I have there has several expansions of it, so it's got a lot more cards. Why are you putting out kind of a base level edition again that adds nothing? That is basically just simply turn back the clock to 1988, and that is what you're buying.
I have an answer why you might do that. It's the same as Doctor Who. Like there is a new group of people who have come in who don't know old Wiz War. And this is, they need to, if they're going to get into it, they'll need to digest it at this level. There are people who, Doctor Who's a TV show.
I'm like, what?
Yes. And they're people who are super old school British Doctor Who, and there are people who
Ben is still confused.
Yeah.
A television show is when there are actors that play people on television, and there's a script that is written for them. Like, I know what you watch is kind of scripted, but it's a little different.
Yeah.
So it probably isn't designed for you. It's probably designed for people who could be you now.
See, I don't think that's true.
But you don't have that perspective because you're old and crusty. Well,
I think that it is aimed firmly at me, and I believe that the reason that they don't have the spells is because they want to sell me expansions.
That could be a true statement.
Have you thought about getting into the business of wrangling some of the rights of these sort of older games and like putting out the version that you would really want, like a democker. Like, I mean, WizWar, I mean, it sounds like they just wrestle back rights, so they probably have those rights for a little while. But like, I feel like this sometimes happens. Like, we talk about Tribune, we talk about Democker, we talk about even Fresh Fish, or any of these games that you're like, oh, well, I have this version. Like, I'm sure some of these games, it might not be that hard to get the rights and like try to figure out a way to publish.
Or like Indonesia, when there's this new map, that like you can print and play map that you can really make it work, because Indonesia's biggest problem is the map doesn't work.
Yeah,
I will kill you. I will murder the two of you.
It's very nice. It's very nice, but maybe not remarkable map.
Look, I'm on day 95 of the strike, so maybe I will have to look into that. That's what I'm saying.
Like, it might be like a fun side project.
Put your pen where your mouth is.
Because you know what? The classic move is you go from screenwriting, Hollywood movies to
game design.
Not even. No, reclaiming old game designs and refurbishing and putting them back out again.
Well, I don't think it's a crazy idea, because you see these random companies that spring up and just do it. And so I don't know. I think
it's a road less traveled.
When I'm done with screenwriting, I think you'll see me putting out a game or
so next week.
maybe. I mean,
this is what I'd like to see.
You're not wrong.
This is what I'd like to see: WizWar (Tom's version).
It's like Taylor Swift did a whole bunch of albums with her new the versions of of her old albums. So you could have a whole series of Arc Nova Tom's version.
I mean, I do think that my version of Democker for an American audience, for a Western audience, is legit.
Legitimately,
Tom, I think you would you become BGG famous. I'm serious.
I think this is something.
This is hey, audience, how many of you would like to see Tom's versions of various games and his rules?
The truth is, a lot of important people around town. I feel like you could find a graphic designer that you would need. I think you could get this all together. I don't think it's a crazy thing.
And if it blows up, then you'll shut up.
I mean, and that's where the plan broke down.
I would like to talk about a game that Paul and I played last weekend called 21 Moon.
21 Moon.
Oh my goodness, I lost so much money in Vegas playing 21 Moon.
It does sound a little bit like that.
Oh my God.
In Macau.
It was difficult. I thought I had blackjack, and then they said, oh no, that's a red jack, and 21 Moon or red jack is worth 0. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, 21 Moon, even though it does sort of sound like a card game in Vegas, it is not. It's the exact opposite. It's
basically...
Wait. The exact opposite of a card game in Vegas. Let me see.
Still in the game space, I should say.
Oh, okay. Well, then I got nothing.
It's an alpaca with an umbrella.
Alpaca with a
It's an alpaca that can work an abacus.
Yes. So Paul and I and Candace, we gathered to play
in front of the pod.
Games.
Right.
What?
Friend of the pod. Scott.
Well, that was the
my bad. Sorry, I jumped.
I said we gathered to play games with Scott Peterson, who is who runs All Aboard Games, which currently produces some of the games that the 18XX
the most
games.
Beautiful productions of 18XX.
By far, I think that they are his company is putting out the best 18XXs. 1822, 1817, 18 Chesapeake. All these games.
I keep forgetting. Sicily is
49.
49, yeah.
49,
yeah.
82.
Gorgeous.
He has tons of these games on his website. All Aboard Games. Really, just when you talk about how WizWar or these chits or whatever, my understanding of 18XX, because I've come in I'm a recent devotee, is that a lot of these games for a long time were available kind of in the same production as that original WizWar. Print and play.
Generally a large gallon-sized plastic bag, Ziploc bag. Yeah. And in there was the get the scissors and cut out the
salt cod.
chits. Yeah, it was a lot.
somewhere out there's a old crusty 18xx player who's been playing for a while and like looking at all these new 18xx's and they're going like, oh, I see what you're doing, but it's just not for me. Like, like you're doing it. You're doing
Trying to make it the Euro game.
Yeah, like
I have my little doohickey with the tiny little suction cup on the end of it, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that all these. I have no idea what 1822 or 17 or what their original production was like. But Scott is putting out just these beautiful versions of these games, and obviously I've been going on yammering wherever I can, talking about how people like want to bring more people into 18xx, and these games I think they are really wonderful because the presentation is very slick and clean, and it just helps people come in. And
Access.
the rules are wonderful. So anyway. So we played with Scott, and we played 2 games with Scott. The first game we played was Rolling Stock Stars, which is kind of like a card-based 18xx game, and that's designed by Bjorn Rabenstein.
The Bjorn Rabenstein?
The Bjorn Rabenstein.
Bjorn Rabenstein, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but he was voted this year the most Swedish Jewish person. And he also won most Jewish Swedish person.
See, there you go.
It's huge, and that was how we started our canned.
That's how we got to
tin fish.
I said he probably likes pickled herring,
and then we started going off there and we started to say, do you like smoked fish? And once again, Ben and I found another compatibility that we love smoked, canned, and pickled fish of all varieties.
I can't wait till he he writes in and goes, "Hey, just so you know, I'm neither Swedish nor Jewish.
I'm from Zambia.
I'm going to stand by the joke. I think the joke is solid. The name is Bjorn Rabenstein. I got to go with it. Okay.
Yeah, Rolling Stock Stars. We played kind of a funky card-based 18xx ish game.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it because I guess the way I would describe it is it reminded me of Rex. Is that what the Dune?
Yes.
Yeah, it and so you have. I love Dune.
Rex being the Dune re-theme in the world of Twilight Imperium,
and the Dune map has a certain look about it, and things were clear. Rex did the same thing, and it was basically the Dune map, but it was abstracted in a way that I couldn't see, what was happening. And I felt like the way that Scott was explaining this game, it was like, oh, here is 18xx without the board.
Yeah.
And then it got abstracted in such a way that I go it doesn't feel like an 18xx to me because I don't have the board, because I don't see how these connections are made. And I go oh, it's really interesting how presentation will affect how, because I can see how this is like 18xx. I can see that abstractly, but my experience with it was not that. It
felt different.
Yeah, it felt like I was just collecting cards and trying to make combos, but it didn't feel like an 18xx. So
yeah, I thought it was an interesting experiment to see if 18xx could be translated into a card-based thing. I don't know if it was necessarily for me. I just like a board, etc. And I've said on this podcast many times, I'm less into card games for the sake of, can we translate this into a card game? Then does it need to be a card game? When we talked about Arkwright, the card game. But I think that there will be plenty of people who will find it to be a very fascinating game, because there's a lot of strategic depth to it,
100%,
and there's a lot of funky stuff going on. But I just like a good old classic 18xx.
I wonder if someone had go here's this card game and had no 18xx framing for it. I think I would have a much different experience.
I think so too. But it still was really interesting. Mm-hmm. But then afterwards, we played 21 Moon, which is designed by Jonas Jones. And that one is
currently in the Witness Protection Program.
Jonas Jones. And so this one, I don't know when this one's actually coming out to retail. I feel like there was a Kickstarter maybe behind it, or not a Kickstarter, but they'll have, for all board games, have these sort of waves of things coming out. But 21 Moon is essentially 18xx on the moon. And
love it.
Yeah. honestly. And
The moon map is one of my favorite Age of Steam maps, so why not?
why not put it on the moon? And I think that
Space Corp was a 18XX essentially, and yeah, that's in space faring sort of situation. So yeah.
I think that like if there's a game that could maybe get some crossover appeal, it might be 21 Moon, because I think the moon setting and some of the components in the game, we played, I think, prototype, like a very like far in development prototype.
Sure.
But I think that it could appeal to people who the idea of playing a stock game with a bunch of trains may feel dusty and boring to them. I think the moon setting is it does actually feel kind of like exciting and enthralling.
I mean, if they've played Terraforming Mars, they know about corporations and their future in space. So buying stock, et cetera, kind of feels like a fit, right?
Like, I will say for me, like, the thing that makes it like, as far as like a crossover, is like it has the same Vienna, 18X Vienna. What number is that?
Oh, yeah, 1840.
Yeah, like
tramways of Vienna.
And basically it minimizes rusting first, and it has a fixed. You can see where the end of the game is. And I think like with 18XX, like one of the hard things about 18XX is definitely the rust, but more that like you don't know when the end of the game is because it's abstracted in the stock market often or the money. Yeah. Whereas this, you can see, in this many moves, in this many turns, the game's over. And I think that's a great way to enter. And so like when you look at the moon, it's exciting with the moon. So and you know that here's where the game ends. I think that's a good access point for people.
Yeah, and also visually, not only is it's the whole map is gray, but what they do with this game that's actually sort of innovative is that the tracks, a typical 18XX game, the tiles will be hexes, and these are still hexes, and the tracks will just be these black lines. And you start with a yellow hex, which you can upgrade to a green hex, to a brown hex, and so like the literal color of the hex is that, but you still have these black lines. All the hexes are gray, but the tracks are not single lines. They are sort of like thick lines. And so if it's a yellow tile, it'll be a thick yellow going through the gray, which then becomes a thick green. And so the map sort of maintains the look of a moonscape, which is I think just visually appealing. It just makes it accessible. But I also don't want to undersell the fact that it was also a really good game.
Yeah, no.
It was like it brought some really fun twists to an 18XX game.
Would it shock you if I told you this game came out in 2020?
I saw that it's 2020, but I'm not sure that it's like, I think maybe the designer, maybe he made like a small batch or something.
Maybe.
So now like it's
now All Aboard is putting out
the big nice version. But there were some really cool innovations. One is that in the game, you sort of have your train company has kind of like two home bases. I think they're called like a space base and a local base, right, Paul?
Yep.
Something like that.
Is it research or something? Something like that.
Something like that. So there's a central hub on the moon.
Spaceport.
So like imagine in 1822, there's London where there's all those place for a million tokens.
In the Sea of Tranquility, there's a base there, right?
Yeah. It's right at the like in the old silent film where the spaceship crashes into the moon.
In Georges Méliès's Voyage to the Moon?
Yes, specifically
Into
that
the
line.
Eye?
Yes, that's where the space base is.
Got it.
Because we're not a video medium, like you can't see this, but like there's such the smugness on Tom's face as he says it. Like my eyes are like
the eye roll that Paul gave right now. I seriously thought
I've injured myself with my eyes have injured themselves. Like I gotta ice them now.
So there's like this one location.
Look, I got a degree in this thing. I better occasionally have something to throw in on this subject.
So there's like one location on the map where every company has presence there.
Yeah.
Like they all have like a home token there, and then everyone has another home station somewhere else. And so you build track from both locations. But when you run trains, your player board is such. And by the way, the fact that there is a player board, normally there are not player boards in this game, but you actually have a player board. And each company has its own player board. And you basically decide, you assign your trains to either the main space base or the local base. And so that's going to determine which base the train is going to run out of. So there's some choices between where you put your trains in your company. And furthermore, the local base, that income goes into your company's treasury while the space base pays out to the stockholders. So like how you develop your tracks and is going to really impact how you impact your stockholders and your company. So, and that was just one of the innovations in the game, but that one was the one that was most striking to me that I really loved.
So on the scale of 18xx in terms of, the 1862 is pretty transgressive.
Chesapeake Plus.
Several different types of trains, and it really messes with the meta in a lot of ways. How transgressive is 21 Moon?
I mean, I like what Paul just said right there,
Chesapeake Plus.
But I feel like there's still enough.
No,
I have to say, you know what? It was interesting about the game, the arc of the game. I really liked because the first half or so, I thought, oh, this is nice. It's going on nicely. It felt like very kind of like sort of like a Chesapeake, sort of like more like not a lot of frills. There's some stuff straightforward. But as the game evolves, there's a lot of emergent strategy and a lot of the elements of the game, like a lot of the MacGuffins of the game, really started to present themselves later in the game. And I thought that was a really good arc. And that's also a really good arc for people who are new to it, where it's kind of straightforward in the beginning, but then as it goes along, you're like, oh, I need to get from there to there so I can get this bonus. So I think it's gonna be a hot title when it comes out.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to play it with you, Tom.
In an effort, you guys certainly don't really include me in your 18xx plays, that's for sure.
Paul, by the way, I forgot to mention, tomorrow, I don't know if I can make it to the Iki and 21 Moon.
Oh, no. That's
sorry.
I'm
sorry.
If only there was somebody you could call that might be able to join.
If only.
Yeah, but there's nobody.
Yeah, so 21 Moon, keep an eye out for it if you're into 18xx or 18xx curious.
I would like to make this podcast something that people that don't play 18xx still want to listen to. So I would like to talk about innovation for a minute.
Oh, sure.
Played innovation earlier this week with some folks, and was just reminded how much I love that game. It is every bit as imperfect as Glory to Rome. It is very swingy. You never know if the game is going to go long or short. Our plays went very short, and yet I still was like, I love the design of this. And it just so happens that there is a new edition of Innovation that is coming out called Innovation Ultimate 2024. It is going to contain the base game and 5 expansions.
Wow.
Now, if that sounds a little like deja vu, it's because I bought Deluxe Innovation, which had the base game and 4 expansions, and now they have a whole new thing coming out. And I was about to get I was going to get my hackles up. I was going to be like, "How dare you put out this?" And then
salty.
Put it like a little hackle.
Yeah,
little baby hackle.
Until I looked and I saw that actually, what I bought was in 2017, and this is now going to be coming out 7 years later. I think 7 years later, you're allowed to put out an Ultimate Edition and make something different.
Well, one hopes it innovates.
Well, that's kind of one of the things I want to talk about. So
it's like dad jokes, but not quite.
So when I was looking into this, and I was still in my salty space because I hadn't checked the years yet, I saw that they said they're introducing a new 11th era of cards.
Okay.
And I was like, ooh. And then I immediately thought about it, and I was like, oh, the salty me just came right out. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how many times does this game ever go to round 10, let alone not resolve in round 10 and go to round 11? But not so fast. Evidently, Carl Chuddock, who's the designer and who we have a love that knows no bounds. Carl is amazing. He says that he is tweaking the cards of the game so that an 11th round will be something viable.
Okay.
Now, one of the things is the 10th round, all the cards in the 10th round are super powered kind of game-ending cards. They're kind of designed to be that way. So if you're going to have an 11th round of cards, you have to mitigate that somehow. But I hope and I believe that what he's trying to do is trying to mitigate exactly what I just said is the one negative to innovation, which is it is kind of swingy. It is kind of Glory to Rome. There are so many card combinations that can come into your tableau that you just run ragged over all of the other players, grab those achievements, and end the game very early, or well before people think that it's going to end. That happens with some great frequency. So if he's really doing this, if he's really balancing the game, which is by the way, I'm not throwing any shade on Carl Shattuck. This is a super hard thing to do because the game is very innovative in terms of the way cards are played and in the ways in which the cards are used. It is a very, very interesting system, and it is very hard to balance a system that has so many different combinations that can yield unexpected results. But if he's actually trying to do that, gosh darn it, Shattuck, I'm probably going to buy Innovation Ultimate. I want to play it before I buy it, for sure.
You're going to really eke it up.
I might have to. I might have to. I haven't played it
basically the same person.
I haven't played it in a long while, but I really do love that game, and I was reminded of it.
I played it for the second time in my life back in May. The first time I played it was a few years ago, and it ranked as one of like the bottom 3 gaming experiences. Like I hated it. I hated it from the depths of my soul. I hated it.
Uh-huh.
Second time I played it, I had much more fun. And I was
because the baseline was so low.
No, but I was like
maybe.
No, but like I think I'm also a different player.
Oh, sure.
As well.
100%.
And I don't know, maybe it was a different vibe, different environment, or who knows what it was. But I was telling Jordan that it still is not a game that I'm going to reach for. But now, and it's never going to be one that I'm going to suggest that we play. But if I have to play it, I will. I know I can have fun with it now, even though it's still not a game that's really ultimately for me.
Okay,
there we go.
I'm saying,
Fair
like,
enough.
I think it's cool that like it was able to present a whole new experience for me the second time around.
I mean, it is
Maybe the third time I'll be. I'll have.
But that was a very qualified no but.
Listen, it's an hour game. That's really what it is. It's not going to be longer than that. It can be shorter than that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So within that context, kind of civilization in an hour, there's always going to be things that it doesn't do and doesn't do right and doesn't do well. But the question is can it be a fun experience?
Yeah, I think the first time I just got beat up on. It was one of those things where I was the one who
maybe the 11th level card is like Mad Max. Like, you get to round 10 and then boom. Famine, nuclear war.
I got gasoline.
But people love it. People love innovation. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll get there. Another game that I would love to talk about, my last game that I want to talk about before.
Good. I only have one more too because we do need to get to our review.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of.
Don't I get one?
Well, this
Yeah,
one,
Paul, what do you want to talk about?
I got nothing.
Yeah, Paul's got nothing.
Well, Paul played this game with me also. I played this with Matt. Classic Art by Reiner Knizia also just recently got a revamp, a fresh new coat of paint. A lot of these games we're talking about have fresh new coats of paint. So Classic Art, it's not the sequel to Modern Art. Classic Art has been around it's one of the Reiner Knizia games that was like dug up from the 90s, and I think it was even called something's Clubhouse.
Did we mention that when I said that he puts out 20 games? He put out 20 games a year back in the time, and somebody on Discord, one of our listeners, did the math and saw how many games he put out and how long he's been designing games, and he said that his average games per year is 21.
Right. Because you said 20.
I said 20.
Actually, Tom, it's 21.
It's 21 games a year.
It's really absurd. So this one, I think, it's called Classic Art. It has really nothing to do with modern art, except maybe sort of thematically they can go well together. But it's, how would you describe it, Paul? Like a game of prediction?
Yeah.
Like predicting, speculation.
Exactly. That's 100%. Like what you're basically doing is you have a few markers that you can bet on, and you're trying to see, which gallery is going to hit what it needs to hit, and you have multipliers, and there are various things where you can adjust how many pieces of art are in the gallery, and you play that. It's like if you play it and you've played a lot of games, you played this game before, maybe not in this setting and how this is abstracted, and I think it's really fun.
Yeah, it was. So what's interesting about the game is when I got it because I like the idea of a game called Classic Art. I was like, I know I can get this to the table with some friends who just enjoy playing a game with art because it has real art on it. I shouldn't say real art, but I should say art that is like established art, like Vermeer
Right.
Like girl with a pearl earring, like
Real art.
As opposed to all those
Real
posers
art.
these days who think they're
So
artists.
dismissive. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person. But
You're basically the same person.
but what's interesting about the game is that at the beginning of the game, everyone gets dealt out like a series of cards. I don't remember if it's like 5, 6, 7, something like that. And those are going to be the only cards that are going to potentially come out over the course of the round. There's nothing that comes from the deck. So it's a set number of cards. And the cards, everything is just like a painting. And they're split up into, I think, about 5 or 6 different genres of paintings. And on your turn, you're essentially going to play a card from your hand into the appropriate gallery. You're going to play a sculpture into the sculpture gallery, or like a still life into the still life gallery. Maybe you do 2 cards. I don't remember. It's been about a month since we played, so I'm a little hazy on the finer details. But essentially, all you're doing is you're just kind of like slowly everyone's revealing what's in their hand over the course of the game. Of course, the round. But you also, every time you do that, you have a chance to bid like, ooh, I think that still by the end of this round, still life is only going to have, it's going to have 3 or fewer works in it. Or maybe you say, oh, I think it's going to have 6 or more works in it. And so you are just speculating, and there are some controls you can affect the numbers that are going to come out a little bit, but not that much. It's purely speculation. And so I kind of thought like, this will be interesting. I don't really see where the game is going to be here except for just basically bidding. But it turns out there was more to it than met the eye, as in most Reiner Knizia games.
That's his thing, right? It looks simple. It looks like this is kind of nothing. And then you play it and you're like, oh no, there's a lot of game there.
When I was playing it, like, completely different skin and pretty much different mechanics. Oh, not anyway. It reminded me of Colossal Arena, where like here there it's going.
Believe it, isn't it related to Colossal Arena?
Isn't it?
I think it is.
I've never heard of Colossal Arena.
There, like things are going to happen. You're adjusting the market, and you're betting on successive phases. Sometimes you bet early because you can get double. And as you go further down, like different slots get taken, so you can't bid there. So it's all this same genre of game.
Yeah, and so what happens is you have these little betting tokens. And at the end of the round, for everything that you got right, you get points, and then you get your tokens back. But for every incorrect bet you make, you actually lose that token. So that means that the next round you have fewer things to bet on, which means that you actually are probably not going to make as many points, which means you might be driven to make a wilder bet. And then you're like, well, I want to make a wild bet, but I don't want to lose another token. So then it's like, when do I place that bet? What do I do? But the twist is that if you lose all of your tokens,
you get them all back.
You get them all back. So you're actually encouraged to make some crazy bets, knowing that you'll probably lose them. So that way you can get a whole bunch of tokens back. So then you're trying to be the one who has the most betting tokens at a moment when everyone has fewer betting tokens.
Okay. Like the worst case scenario is like you lose all your tokens but one, and you keep hitting that one.
Yeah.
And then, so you're right. It's betting and hand management, which is Colossal Arena. That's the combination that Colossal Arena does.
And then we had a really funny situation that happened, which is that as you get points in every genre. So like if I bet well in sculpture, I'm going to get 6 points in the sculpture genre, let's say. And so again, there's like 5 or 6 tracks, and there's like a line. So basically, if you have fewer than 5 points in a genre, those points just won't be counted at the end of the game.
They don't count.
And so you need to get above that line to get those points at the end of the game. And furthermore, the game only ends once every track has at least one person above that line. So we had a situation where Matt looked like he was clearly in the lead. And so he needed to end the game, and he needed to end the game for sculptures. And so what did we do? Because the game wound up going on for like
because no one could get their thingamajigger over the 5 in sculpture, so the game would not end, and everyone was just stuck there until.
There was something about the psychology of that moment where we're like, we can't have sculptures do well, so we were actively hurting sculptures. That way we
could bring up our other still life and stuff like that, because there was a point where Matt was winning, where he had enough points to win if the game would end, and so we kept on prolonging the game
so we could be in it,
so that Ben could win.
Well, but then on top of that, though, there was a situation too where, like, given that this could end any moment, I have to make really big bets and sculpture so that way I can get in and get above that line right out the gate. It's hard to describe, but the point was that because of the nature of where the players were at, it affected how we were all playing, and it affected actually how these galleries unfurled. So what seemed to be a pretty straightforward game of just predicting turned out to actually have hidden layers in
Like
it. And that was
a tactical layer that was.
it was very cool.
I highly recommend you check out Colossal Arena if you can. It's a classic that we don't really talk about, but it's kind of an amazing game. It's mind blowing in terms of how much a little box of just cards and a couple chips yields a really richly rewarding.
Definitely.
Bidding game for sure. And the last two, I forgot. There's one I want to talk about. So, but I'll be super quick.
People here
I'll
for
be super
Amsterdam.
quick. Okay. I never played Heat. I finally played Heat. Jordan brought
did you
Heat, and we
like it?
played it.
Racing game.
It's just a racing game.
Just a
I
racing
like
game.
so racing games have a ceiling for me. This is the best racing game I've ever played.
Wow. Okay.
But
But
there's a ceiling. But there's a ceiling. I really enjoyed it. I thought there were a lot of really great design elements, very well thought out. This is how much I liked it. I liked it so much that I wouldn't mind playing a Grand Prix, which is you play a little bit of a mini campaign over the course of a night where you play several different races and you can upgrade your cars and all that sort of stuff. And I liked it enough that I would actually go in for that and try that out and do that. So I enjoyed it. I liked there were some very interesting Euro-y mechanics that were thrown into the design of the game. The tactical card play that you have to do, the ways in which the game kind of has catch-up mechanisms for people, but really it's about hard decisions and hand management all the time. And I thought it was really good. I quite enjoyed it. So I'm glad I finally played it.
It's super fun.
And then the last thing is Here I Stand is making a comeback. Candace is going to be playing Here I Stand this week, and did not know that I stand hard for Here I Stand. That I am a big
I
fan.
didn't know that you were. You mentioned it, but I didn't know you also. I also didn't know you stand for it.
Yeah.
I did not know it was Here I Stand for you.
I'm a Here I Stand stan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same person.
big time.
Again.
Here I
Same
Stand.
person. Yeah, big time.
So what do you have to say about that?
Just that if
She's dead to you.
if their game goes well, yes, she's dead to me.
Just want to put her on blast.
If the game goes well and she gets a few people into it, I would love to have a crew that we could play that more often. That we could get to the table, 4 or 5 times a year. Because I really
4
enjoy
or
that
5
game.
times a year.
By the way, I can,
Or have 4 or 5 windows where we might play that.
I kid you not. This is not to rile you up, but Candace pitched it to me, and she said, "Ben, I think you should play it because it's kind of like historical TI4."
It is, yeah. Oh, I mean, in the exact same way that Democker is.
Didn't she also? And since you are basically Tom, we get both of you at there at once.
Yeah. So
Basically.
you'll be represented.
Good.
We'll just
That's all we just need one of us.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
No big deal. But I was just reminded once again of how it is not a perfect game. It is kind of a maddening game in some ways.
I think like when we played it, I think it's an interesting simulation
Wait,
Yes.
of history.
Is it designed by who's it designed by?
Ed Beach.
Ed Beach.
Because things like balance and all that stuff, that's not the point. That is not the point.
It's not unbalanced per se. It is the things that people are doing in the game is very unbalanced.
I would say the game when we played.
Yes.
It's imagine you're in England.
Yes.
And you're doing your thing, and somewhere off the coast of Macau, someone else is doing something, and eventually you guys may intersect. That's how it felt. There are people that you would have no interaction with till the 8th hour of the game.
Look, the person we had in the game playing England was just a real jerk. So we can't really talk about it in those terms.
Give me a pep talk of what's the mentality I need to be in as I walk into that game.
Narrative. Go in for narrative. It's all narrative.
Immerse yourself in the story because what you're playing is going to be a radically different game. If you were playing the Protestants, you could not be. It is almost like you were playing a game that has nothing to do with the game that the Ottoman player is playing. Like there is no crossover between the two games.
Imagine Chutes and Ladders on one end of the table and 1817 on the other end, and they're connected.
That is not true. That is not true.
I mean, that's a great pitch, though.
If you are the Protestant,
on one end,
if you are the Protestant player, you are fighting a 2-person game against the papacy, and you are all in. And to some extent, the decisions of the other players are going to affect what happens in your battle.
I would say for you, Ben, if you had the right people that came in with it for like, oh, let's experience this and let's play for narrative, like you would have a great time.
Okay,
but you'd need 15 hours
because I'm worried that what's going to happen is that someone is going to take a cutthroat, like aggressive thing do something cutthroat and aggressive against me, and I'm gonna see red, and I want to sort of prepare. I want to put myself in a mind space where I'm gonna laugh when that happens.
No, you know what?
No,
you should request to play the Ottomans then.
Okay,
because you will be the one slitting throats.
Well, it's not that. Like I think like the problem. I think playing the game only once.
Yes.
So I think the issue with the game is like if you are truly knocked out, like you're there for you're super trapped.
True, but sometimes I'm okay with that because then I find actually there's a huge amount of freedom in that, and that you can just sort of do whatever. Who cares? But it's like because 18xx Ti4 when I get double crossed there, or there's a savage move. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Like, good move. Western Empires, I was like, burn this game to the ground.
I feel it reminds me more of Western Empires.
I just think you were in a bad place. I think you just had a bad day.
You had a bad day. Bad mindset. I wasn't embracing my fellow twin flame.
When we play Eastern Empires, it's going to totally change your mind.
Did the twin flames leave you bruised, man?
I got burned by the other half of my twin flame.
Oh, I love that.
When we play Eastern Empires, that's what's going to really bring you around.
There's some weird Stockholm syndrome thing going on with that game because I was like so angry after Western Empires, and but now I'm sort of like, well, but now I feel like I'm an older and wiser player, even though it was only like 4 months ago or 6 months ago. I'm like, I'd be fine now, So I don't know.
Oh, what can you do?
Well, we'll see. I'll report back on how I fare with Here I Stand.
Yeah, we want to.
What are you playing?
What am I playing? When is it? I think it's like in a few weeks.
Okay. And how many people do you have for the game?
6.
I'm not.
I literally
six.
No. I have no idea.
You play 6. Okay. She's got 6.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
I think it's gonna be 6 players. I don't remember when it's. I think in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, it's
3 weeks.
Carb load, like carbo load.
Yeah, treat yourself gentle the day before and the day after.
I don't like being this person that has to like mentally prepare myself, to get in the right mindset for a game. But I'm coming to terms with the fact that I am this person.
You have dudes on a map problems, and this has dudes on a map issues. So prepare yourself for that.
Yeah,
and see if you can play the Ottomans. See if you can play the French. Those are the 2 powers that I would push you toward.
Play wherever you get. Because I feel like Candace is Jordan playing.
Jordan is playing.
Oh,
yeah. He's going to kill me.
Try to not be around Jordan.
That's exactly
like geographically.
I am going to stay on the other side of the map because he's gonna do a savage move on me, and I'm gonna see red, and I'll get mad at Jordan, and I don't want to get mad at Jordan. It's gonna happen. I can see it already happening.
Yeah, no, it can be tough. It can be tough. Everyone's so asymmetric. So
I don't want to have a retread of Democker where I was like, how could you with the whole controversy we talked about last week. I don't want to go down that path again. Yeah. So we're gonna see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
We do go down that path, and maybe we grow and we learn.
Okay. Yeah. No.
But at least you won't be playing Amsterdam.
Oh, snap, at least. Okay, so time to talk deep dive with Amsterdam, which is a Stefan Feld game. Originally, it was Macau. When did that come out? 2006, 2007? I see you've got
2009, maybe?
Okay.
I feel like, let me check.
Well, Tom will be on. He will check out the date for that. But basically...
2009, boom.
2009. Queen Games has been re-releasing several Stefan Feld games under a new umbrella of the Stefan Feld City Collection. Nice. There's games like Bruges has been re-implemented as Hamburg, and Macau has
Hamburg.
and now Macau has been re-implemented as Amsterdam. So
Amsterdam.
Stop.
So
Stop.
of note, these two games were the first that were released in this series. There are now several. There's Marrakesh, and there's several more coming down the pipeline.
And as far as Kickstarter releases, this was a bad one. This was a long slog and wait, and
It was not ideal. So I backed Hamburg because I own Bruges, and I saw the Rado run through, and I saw this big, beautiful new board, and it incorporated the Bruges expansion, which has been long out of print. I thought, this seems great. This seems like a great. I love the little tweaks in it. I'm going to back Hamburg, and the Kickstarter was like, oh, by the way, you can also back Amsterdam. And I was like, I'm tempted to. Macau, I played it once before online. I enjoyed it. Am I going to do Amsterdam? I'm not sure. So I got Hamburg, and a lot of the buzz around Amsterdam was like, ooh, of the two, this is the one to get. So that made me super curious about Amsterdam. And I eventually wound up getting it. And so we've played it. And for those who don't know how it plays, essentially it is just a brutal Euro. It comes from that like era of Stefan Feld where he just loved to punch you in the face while you tried to get all your shit together.
And it is so less brutal than Macau, than the game that it comes from. But it is. You're right. So yeah, basically, it's hard to explain what some of these Stefan Feld games are because there's so many different things that are going on, right?
Yeah, but in this one is essentially the signature element of it is that every round we roll a bunch of dice and they're different colors, and so
Trey's out.
Trey is out. So like, let's say there's an orange.
Trey would begin for this because
Trey would like this?
No. I didn't say that. I said, but as far as the dice is not the problem.
Correct.
So what happens is that essentially you roll a bunch of dice and everyone's going to choose. The dice are tied to a resource. So what the resources are, not sure. Love,
purple,
never specify.
Orange, purple, gray, cubes basically. So like if we roll an orange 2, that means you can get 2 orange cubes, or if there's a black 6, you can get 6 black cubes. And everyone has a little wheel a la barrage, little spokes in it, and they each have compartments. So there's like a compartment for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's also one for 1. So if you get the 2 orange cubes, you put the 2 orange cubes in the 2 compartment. So after everyone gathers all their cubes in this way, we then rotate our wheel, and there's sort of like an exit. There's like an exit door on this wheel. A la barrage. And whatever is in that exit door comes tumbling out, and those are the resources you have to play with for the round.
It doesn't actually come tumbling out. There is no height thing to it.
No, emotionally tumbling out.
Got it, yes.
Yeah. So they come out.
You take the things out of the area.
Now, if you don't have anything to come out of that area, you get a penalty.
Yes.
And you don't want penalties in this game.
Nope.
Because they're exponentially bad.
They are exponentially bad.
They're not exponentially bad, but they do increase badly.
3, 8, 15, 22. That's
so no. And then only by 7.
So this is the first.
Again?
Only by 7.
Yeah, but still bad.
Caps.
But so then this is the first pressure cooker of the game, which is that you constantly are trying to manage the cubes you need to do the things you want to do, which we'll get into in a second. Versus also having to fill in the gaps in your wheel, because if you have a gap in your wheel and then that wheel turns and it's time for everything to come out, it's like
zero
like
tumbles.
Ferris wheel. Think of a Ferris wheel. When people get off a Ferris wheel, you sit there and it stops. People get off and it rotates. People get off, and it's like in this game, if the Ferris wheel rotates and there's no one on the bench to come out,
demerit.
The Ferris wheel gets a
You have
star.
earned a demerit, and the demerit is a broken wagon wheel. That is the symbol for
A
it.
broken wagon wheel. So you're trying to constantly make sure you are filling your wheel up, because you never know what the numbers. There's that roll of the dice, and you're like, well, I really need those 5 purple cubes.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, but if I don't use that 2 now, there's no chance.
So the 5 purple cubes will go on the 5th space of the wheel, which is not coming to you for 4 turns.
5 more rounds. Exactly. 4 more rounds.
In our game yesterday, for example, Ben and I, we had a 2 problem. And so eventually, we rotated, and now we had a blank on 1. And if Tom did not roll a 1, we get a demerit, and we're like, oh no, I have a one problem. That's right.
Rolled a single one.
You actually rolled, I think, 3 different dice for 1. I think.
Oh, on that one,
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, phew.
Which I would argue is actually one of the best parts of the game is that like that tension and that drama and the fact that we all cheer when that die rolls.
Is it?
Well, I think that's like a fun theatrical moment. However, the reason why this is even more stressful is that every round before we even roll those dice and see what's coming down the pike, every single player is forced to draft a card from a display.
Notice what Ben said. Forced. You must do this.
This is a non-consensual card acquisition game.
Yeah, like we are obligated to take a card from the display, and we have little player boards. They're kind of like strips of cardboard, a long strip, which is similar to the Iki player board. If anyone has actually played that,
I haven't played it.
And so
nobody who loves me invited me to play that.
So the cards, when you draft them,
do you know that Iki and Here I Stand actually are working on a way to connect the two?
Here at Iki. So the cards go below by the way, there's a crow outside that is going absolutely bananas right now. This crow loves Amsterdam.
I don't know what's going on there.
Do you guys hear this crow?
No, I can hear it on the recording.
Yeah. So if everyone's wondering what that crow is, that's just Stefan Feld trying to defend his game. So these cards, when you are forced to get them, they go below your player aid, okay? And you have a spot for 5 of these cards below your player aid, okay? And if it's time to take your card and you take on a 6 card, you're going to get a penalty, because one thing that you're trying to do with those resources is use them to get those to pay for the cost of those cards to move them out from under your player board, if that makes sense.
Essentially activating them there. Suddenly what the card does, the little benefit that it gives you can take now.
Yeah, because every card has a price that's like, oh, to activate this card, you need to spend 2 orange cubes and a gray cube, or like 3 purple cubes or whatever. So you really need to get those cards activated. And so the pressure going back to that wheel is not only am I filling in the blanks of the wheel, but I'm also trying to get the right combination of cubes in the same pocket. So that way when they come out, I can then pay to move these cards out of the way. So that way there's room for the new card, which has to come. So there's like a death march of cubes and cards that you're dealing with every single round.
So the way that I explain this aspect of brutality, because there's many aspects of brutality, is that you need to build an engine with pieces that you don't necessarily want, and to fuel these to fuel these engines is this random bit where you also have to pick fuel that isn't appropriate for your engine. And guess what? You can't keep any cubes except for 1, so you must spend them too.
Which is a mitzvah. It is a blessing that Stefan Feld has given us, because in Macau you can keep none.
Yeah,
you cannot even keep 1 cube. If your rondel does not have exactly what you need,
right,
forget about it.
And that is not insignificant. Like it's be able to keep 1 cube really opens up what you can do with the game, because there have been so many times, especially early in the game, you're really relying on having that holdover. Obviously, there's ways to do it, because the original Macau worked perfectly fine. People love it.
In original Macau, you'd see a card that has 3 different color cubes on it, and you'd be just like, well, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Because you would literally have to make sure that rondel section has exactly those 3 colors, which means 3 rounds ahead of time you need to have been seeding the 1 color in there and the 1 color in there. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
So it does give the player more agency, which yes, it's less brutal. I actually think it's a good change.
Agreed.
I think that being able to interact with the cards in front of you is more important than having just another extra layer of brutality, because honestly, it still feels brutal. Like I felt like managing the cubes, managing the cards, I feel like you're scraping by every round.
You did just fine, Ben.
No, but I
your-
did fine.
Your
but I
humility is very
felt-
practiced.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference.
Were you
between
doing that in the
doing
mirror this
fine-
morning? Because it looks like you were doing that in the mirror this
You
morning.
guys, I am a man of the people.
It was a super hard game for me too, guys. Yes, I won, but it was really hard.
We're all in
you
this
can-
together.
Well, some people just deal well with brutality. What can I say? No, I do. There's a difference between doing well and feeling like it's brutal. Because I felt the entire time I was like, oh my god, I'm missing out on this. They're all going for they're using their coins to buy points at the market, and I'm sitting here and I'm having to use coins to get another cube that they all seem to have access to. So you just feel that pressure the entire game, and I think that's kind of like the signature element of Macau and this game.
Yeah, no, it's I as a person who likes games that are mean, like the game itself is very mean for what it forces you to do. Like it forces you to do all these things that are against your own interests because of necessity.
Yeah.
And so in the way you never feel like you're in control. Because like for the first half of the game, like especially when you have no cards above your in play to help your engine. Before you have an engine, you are good luck.
Yeah.
Like you are a slave to turn order, the flop, and whatever dice. And when I say slave, you are definitely.
And this is a Mad Max engine to bring that back because it's like taped together from whatever parts you found in the post-apocalyptic desert, and you're hoping it's good. And by the way, you can build a beautiful engine, but like any good engine, it needs some fuel.
If I may, I want to just talk a little bit more about the way the game plays, right? So you roll these dice, you take the cubes of that number of cubes, and you put them in that section of the rondel, and as you turn the rondel, whatever is in section 1 is going to come to you this turn. Those cubes are the main thing you're going to use, and you're going to use those to take cards and promote them up and make them active. You're going to use those cubes to secure districts in the map on the main board,
which we haven't got to yet,
of Amsterdam, and claim them for your own. And when you do, you're gaining a different kind of resource. You're gaining a commodity.
Yeah.
Because in the top half of the main board is a seascape, essentially, is a place where you're going to be able to take ships, load them up with some of these items, and sail to the places that want those items and will give you victory points for those items. And there's also one other little thing of dock workers there that on the way between these places, you can pick up dock workers that are going to be worth money. And if you deliver them to the right place, they're also worth points.
Technically, I just want to point out that they are barges and not sailboats because I don't want people
Thank
to
you.
think that,
Someone said it.
I don't want people to think that this is more romantic than it is. It's like full-on cargo barges,
right.
and we're just motoring around. But the point still remains. You're moving those boats around, and you're dropping off the goods that you were collecting from the town or the city, and then you are getting points, and you're moving dock workers around.
And there's an area control aspect in the game where when you're doing the map, you're labeling or whatever your things, and there's a long claiming, a longest contiguous route that's worth something. There are districts that are going to be scored more, so there's a lot of things happening.
Yeah, and then there's also, I alluded to it, there's a market tile. In the original game, you could basically buy points. There was something like with the way the cards would come out where like you spend like 3 coins, you might get 6 points or something like that. And in this game, there's no formula to make that happen. It's just like a flop of these cards that say this round, you can spend 4 coins and you will get like 4 points and movement up the turn order track, which is exceedingly important. So there's that
which is the Amstel River running through Amsterdam is also a place where you have a separate little barge or a little boat that is moving up that river.
Yeah, there's actually several boats, and actually I think so I don't have the deluxe version. I have just like the normal version.
Boo!
I know the deluxe version I think does have the boat, but in my version it's just like a cylinder there. But what I have to say, I really enjoy that in this game that on the turn order, not turn order, and on the scoring track, everyone's boat. Everyone has like a little rowboat, and so as you're getting points, you sort of imagine your little rowboat literally just like rowing along, which I think is very
And
adorable.
what's funny is like, when you row, you get tired, and that's how you feel throughout the whole game because you're moving at the very beginning, you're moving like these piddly like 1-2 steps, and you're just so tired to get the 1-2 like all these things. It's like, I'm so exhausted. I'm just so exhausted from like spending all my energy to basically get 1 point.
It is. So now, before we actually get into the gameplay, I do think it's really important to talk about the visuals in this version of the game, because I think this is not one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, it looks nice, whatever. I have some actual serious issues with the production.
Agreed.
That get in the way of gameplay. I will say, because I know what some of your guys is, so I will start with one of mine instead, which is that the cards, and there's been a lot of ink that's been spilled about this, the cards that the game comes with have very unique iconography that is not always intuitive. I think it's a hard game to do iconography for, to be fair.
Yeah.
The actual art on the card is very lovely, like that woman picking tulips.
And the cards are in Dutch.
And they're in Dutch, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with them being in Dutch.
I love trying to pronounce Dutch words.
Yeah. But my issue is the iconography is very difficult, and all the cards are explained in a big glossary, but the number on the card, so you can look it up in the glossary, because the glossary is not alphabetical, and it's like, again, it's Dutch. So you have to rely on the card number, and the card number is it's like you have to hold the card up to your nose to read it.
Look, Ben, Queen isn't made of money, okay? Do you understand that going from 2-point type to 3-point type adds another $50 per unit?
Clearly. I mean, I just don't know why they couldn't make the card number like a normal legible that you could read from across the table, because there's cards come out in a display, and it's like things like that are annoying, and they bring in an annoying energy into a game. When a game is stressful, I don't think you want to annoy people when you're already stressing them.
I mean, Queen Game does offer, they have LASIK centers all over Europe.
They do actually have a English version of the cards, which I probably will get. But I think I will. But I have to say, production-wise, I thought that was a very annoying thing. But I know that you guys have something that I share with you.
Sure.
That, like, who wants to mention the next?
A couple things, but Paul, do you want to?
Well, for me, like, everything is beautifully, like, there's a lot of saturated colors, so like it pops.
The board.
The problem is, like, all the pieces are such that, like, when you put them on the board, they all get cloaked basically by all this color.
They are literally lost.
And so there's this aspect where, like, you're struggling to access the game physically. That's how I always say it. Like, it's not intuitive that you see, oh, here's Tom's route, here's my route, here's where this resource is that I need. Here's even where how much these resources cost, because everything has such high contrast that, if everything is pink, then like nothing is pink.
But also, it's like,
do you think that it suffers partially because we played a work of art that has perfect game functionality in Indonesia last week? Do you think maybe that's the reason?
Now that you say that, I think that is true.
Like, as much as I bitch about the map in Indonesia, like, although you can't necessarily count, where the pieces are.
You can see where everything is.
You can see the pieces.
Like, you can see where they are. You might not be able to read, but like with this here, like, everything just becomes like camouflaged.
It does.
And so, like, this is where I would say, a desaturated map would be a little better in some ways, because you would be able to see, here's what's available, here's not. So just the physical access.
Or as simple as I said that if the player pieces that you put out when you claim a territory are plain old wooden disc, the simple wooden disc of your player color, the height of it and the look of it is going to not blend into everything else there and make things disappear.
Because this is an expensive game, and I know it's not there's like a school of thought that when you talk about games, like, you really shouldn't bring price into it because yada yada yada. But honestly, like, the deluxe version was about $100.
I don't get that conversation, because we have to talk about price. I mean, we're advocating for people to buy or not buy things.
Yeah, so the deluxe version is like $100, which feels a little crazy. But you know what? My Hamburg is deluxe, and I actually quite enjoy it. I'm like, I still feel like 100 was a little too expensive, but I still am like, but okay, whatever. This one was, I think, $75. Yeah. So I think that for that price point, like, you could fit in some cubes or some cylinders. And the reason why this is really an issue is because when we talk about these city districts where you claim a commodity and you put down a crest instead, The crests have sort of the same, almost the same shape as the commodities, and almost the same color
saturation
scheme and saturation.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to determine what's a crest and what's not. And that could be a gameplay issue. That could be not just an inconvenience, because if you're trying to if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to pick up a good, and then you realize, oh, that's not a good, that's a crest, that could mess up your entire round.
In the northern half of the map, the water section of the map, you have to find places where there are cranes so that you can load your boat. It is almost a Where's Waldo level of design, where they have hidden these cranes so that they are super hard to find.
Hidden in plain sight, though.
And I mean,
like Waldo.
I mean, yeah. But
if you have to sit there every single time, like, where's the blue crane? Where's the pink crane?
Yeah. And the delivery places for these workers as well. The color of them is super hard to discern and super hard to find. There are a lot of very, very basic mistakes in terms of board and card legibility and understanding.
Yeah, and it slows down the game, and they're not like end of the world things, but there are enough annoyances that I think in a game where people may feel beleaguered or they may feel like the game is out to get them, that you don't want to throw up more obstacles. It frustrates me. This sort of circles back to every single thing we just talked about. Like, it frustrates me that in 2023 that people
don't have clean water.
That they don't.
Clean water.
Well, yes, that does frustrate me. But it also frustrates me that people don't think about these things when they put out the games. They don't sit down and play and say, like, oh yeah, like we can fix that, or we can approach that. I mean, maybe there were many meetings about this, but this was a real a usability issue.
Yeah, I can see what happened, right? Like, because if you look at the map without playing it, and you go like, oh, this is a pretty map. Like, before you play,
the map is pretty. It's like a storybook.
Yeah, like you go like, oh, I see what this game is. It's only when you're using it where you go like, oh, maybe we should have drawn an outline for where these districts are, because like the gray and the black might look too similar, or even the gray and the purple, or whatever. Like, it's just too.
I mean, there's an anchor symbol at the places where you go to deliver goods, but there is no symbol where the cranes are.
The anchors are very easy to spot. You see an anchor like right away. I don't know, somehow the anchors pop out.
Yeah, because that part of the board was stripped away from all of the finery and made very relatable and very playable.
Yeah.
So this is like basically reverse Indonesia. In Amsterdam and Indonesia have
two maps that are too pretty for their own good. Although I wouldn't call this game too pretty. It was just it's I feel like it's actually kind of like a cute map. I also think by the way, the determining the neighborhoods in the city area have different colors, and you don't look at that area and be like, oh, that's the orange area. You kind of have to really look at it, like, oh, yeah. I see some roofs.
Because there's so many other colors of like basically texture colors.
And there are resources that are on top of all of these areas, and the resources tend to cover the color that you're supposed to be seeing.
Or the cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just feel like production-wise, like it gets in its own way, which I think is unfortunate. In terms of gameplay, I mean, I didn't get the sense that you guys, when we were playing it last night, I didn't get the sense that you guys were really loving it, or I couldn't tell where you guys feel a sense of misery because it was tough, or is it misery because you guys didn't like it?
I like a mean game, but there are conditions to that meanness, right? Agricola is the great example. It's like that those first few plays of Agricola where you realize how hard it is to just feed your family.
Yeah,
is just mind-numbing, and that's hard. It feels hard every single time. But what the game actually is you getting out of subsistence farming and getting to a place where hopefully a lot of people will be able to build a farm that is suddenly, oh, I can really feed my family now. I can do this now. I have a little bit of extra resources in order to be able to build this stable or to build these sorts of things. So a hard, mean game, but the experience of playing the game is something that kind of transcends that a little bit. Or Democker, right? It could be a very mean game because people are in fights for their lives in every single one of these states and every single one of these territories in which you're trying to get it. But you win elections and you change public opinion, you do these things and you see these things happening. So the question is does Amsterdam do that? Now Macau didn't do that. There's a reason I don't own Macau, and it's that I played it and I was like, ooh, I love a Stefan Feld game. I'm into it. Mm-hmm. And I played it a few times, and at the end of the day, I'm just like, nah, not really. Not really. I don't hate Macau. I think it's a very interesting design. But in Macau in particular, and I have to say there are some very good choices that were made in the redesign of this game. In Macau, it takes 10 spaces, I think, to get your barge to the very first the nearest other place
to get to the cluster of
to deliver to the islands is 10 spaces. Each one of those requires one of those cubes that you've been sweating over trying to get in the first place. So it is really, really hard to deliver things, which creates a situation in that game where what you're really doing is you're just stacking up all of these resources, and the end of the game is spending all of these cubes that you've just been saving up on this wheel for these mega turns where you're going as far as you can and delivering as much as you can. And it created kind of sameness to the game where everybody is just suddenly spamming the board full of all of the things that they've worked all game to get to. This game did some very interesting things that mitigated that. First of all, they gave bonuses for early deliveries.
A la similar in vibe to Castles of Burgundy.
Yes.
When you finish a section of your board early, you get a bigger bonus.
The cards in this game create another thing that is going to be, frankly, a drain on the cubes that is going to create a very different feeling of the game and the way things are laid out. And the ability to hang on to that one cube between turns gives you at least the illusion of a little bit more agency in terms of how I can manipulate my situation to do the things that I want to do, as opposed to being forced into situations where I have to do the only thing I can do, which Macau fell into a lot.
I think that the stuff with the barge, I think they did a really good job, despite the fact that it's difficult to parse what's going on up there visually. I think they did a good job of updating, what you can do with that barge. Because like you said, originally it was that you had to spend a lot of cubes just to move your barge close enough to the islands to start delivering. But here you can start delivering right away. But there are a lot of considerations. There are dock workers that you can pick up, and then you can deliver them somewhere to get money. And money is really important. And then on top of that, there are those early bonuses. I don't think this was in the original game. But now, if you're moving your barge around, and let's say you're just sort of in the middle of the water, and you get some commodities from the city, those commodities have to sit in a temporary warehouse until you get to a dock, and then at a dock you can then load them onto your barge. So you have to
He's added a step.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to position where your barge is on that map matters more.
Yeah,
and I really like that. I think it sort of adds some fascination to the pick up and deliver that's going on up there.
Hey. My turn. I had a very hard time with this game. It's not often that I go, oh, this is really unpleasant for me. But Jordan, looked at me, as we were playing, and we're about maybe 8/10 through, so 4/5, I guess we can do math. And I go oh, I can say it now. I go
we'll accept either.
Yeah, I hate this game, and it took me a little bit of thinking about why it is. And I think for me, I think some of the beauty of the game is cruelty. You have your barrage cube mechanic plus your card mechanic that you have to deal with, and you're struggling for that. It was hard for me to combine that with area control and delivery. Why I don't even know why I'm picking these buildings per se. With these cubes that mean nothing to me, aside from that they are resources, and then put another game where I need to do some area control and some pickup and delivery. That, there was a huge, disjunction in that mindset for me. So I could never really grasp what I'm doing aside from doing various mechanics.
Yeah. It's true.
And so with that, I was going I don't have access to this game on a visceral level or a narrative level or whatever. And because of that, I go now I'm being punched in the face because of it's like going in. if I were to go box with someone, hey, here is someone, I'm boxing with them. This feels like I'm going in and boxing with like a robot. And I have, and it's just like, it's not even
while you're doing it.
Exactly. And there's also the aspect of like things that I always dislike is like player interactivity. Like in this game here, like what we're competing for is like, do we play with turn order to get cards? Because you want the cards, you want to have the first pick. So turn order means a lot. And then there's an aspect about like, how quickly and how necessary do I need to get these resources on the map? But other than that, like there's no impact for me against Tom other than denial. There's no, so I'm already pretty negative on that. Like that's a personal thing. That's, some people love that. Agricola is that. Like, like you basically go here, I need to go here, and like someone else needs to go there, and you're actually jockeying to see how late I can go to a location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this doesn't have that.
Yeah, the interaction is not very high. I mean, there are areas that are built for interaction, but even then, like moving my barge around, I wasn't terribly concerned about where anyone else's barge
I will
was.
say, like, like in as far as the real interactivity comes in turn order, and there were 2 times in the game. Like I've never interacted with Tom. Like Tom blocked me once for no reason, like completely out of of you.
I beg your pardon. I thought I gave you 9 points in the second round of the game.
I'm sorry. Was that after you had to take back because like you read the rules, but you hadn't played before?
Yeah, probably.
But I had no interaction with Tom in real interaction, but like you destroyed me twice because you took turn order at the most appropriate time, which I don't think you knew that you couldn't know it was going to happen because you didn't know what the flop was going to be.
Right. I just did it because it was like that. This seems like a good use of my resources, and I also am like, I think I just kind of feel like being.
Sure. So
I can see turn order right now, so I think I'm going to. Yeah, it's never going to be bad.
So basically, you magic Mike that divined, the situation, and I was like, oh my god, this destroys this card that I have completely. But like, aside from that denial, like there's no, there's no
which I agree. And I think this is one of those moments where that's either going to be a feature or a flaw for someone because like it's not a huge flaw for me. Sure. I'm happy with a game that's just like a really interesting, intricate puzzle, and I'm mainly just doing my thing, and the interactions just that we're talking about our misery together. I know other people really want more intense interaction. I don't think one is better or worse than others. Just that's personal preference.
And this is I preface it. This is my thing. Like,
that's what you would want.
Yeah. Like ultimately, if it's going to be brutal, I want my compatriots to be brutal to me, as opposed to the game being brutal, and then we're just. It's like we're in a cage, and then every now and then someone comes in and beats us up individually.
Are we emotionally closer now? We've been hazed by the game.
We're drowning in our own boats, and we just keep reaching out for each other, and they're like, "Get away from me! Get away!"
But I would say though, so on the plus side, because I like the game more than you guys did.
I have a different way of looking at it too.
Actually, no. Why don't you say what your way of looking at it is?
So when I looked at the game first, right, I see this watery area, and I see all these different places where you can load up goods and places where you can deliver goods that have different point values, and there's like a connected waterways between these things, and there are little men that you can pick up and deliver those as well. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. That looks interesting. That's pretty cool. Then there is a city map. And I can see every single space in that city map has a different commodity that you're going to be delivering up there. And you're going to claim those. And they have different costs, but they also have different connection points to other things. I'm like, okay, it's a little more area control. It's a little more, stringing out a list of things. Not quite so interesting, but still pretty good. Then I look at the cards, and I'm like, this isn't very interesting to me at all. This is... it's like you first of all you have to take a card. It's not you get to take a card, and it's like, what is the difference between taking the tulip cellar and taking the West Hall building? Really, what is the difference? It has a different cost, and it has a different little micro power, but that is as dry and boring as it gets. Right, and then even the wheel and all that sort of stuff is like, that's interesting to a point, but the fact that if you leave a sector open, you're going to get a ding to negative point. That's less interesting to me.
So interesting because I am the exact reverse of you. I go like with the cubes and the cards. I go like, oh, that's it. That's a mitigation Galaxy Trucker style, like make lemonade out of like crap kind of.
Oh no! For me, what it came down to is that I had to spend so many of my cubes avoiding negative points by playing these cards that meant nothing to me, that I didn't have enough cubes to do a lot of shipping and delivering, or do the shipping and delivering that I thought.
But that's because you're looking at it as a delivery game.
That I thought I wanted to. I'm just saying that was the only part of the game that was particularly interesting to me.
That you didn't feel like you got to play it as much because you were bogged down with the things the game was forcing you to do.
Correct. Yeah, I think that the game had a lot of do this or get punished. That got in the way of here are the possibilities of the game, and I just didn't love that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, so like I was saying before, I like this game more than you guys do. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is like my favorite Feld, but I enjoy it. I'm actually glad that I bought it. I played it at 2 players. I played it at 4 players. Paul and I played it at 2 players. I think it's much better at 4 players. I just think that there's just more dynamic things happening with 4 players.
So we played it optimally.
I think so. I mean, it was still fun at 2 players, but I think it was much more fun at 4 players.
Got it.
But what I really enjoy about the game is I do enjoy the brutality. I don't mind the game is forcing me to do something, because literally every game ultimately is forcing you to do something. Like every game has its rules, and this one's saying just like this is the way it is. I was fine with the fact that like thematically nothing really made sense because it was a Stefan Feld game, so I was like okay with it. I just was fine with it. But what I liked about it is I like that you are kind of taking these random cards. Like one of the first cards you take I think one of the first cards I took was something like every time you use this sort of card, this kind of orange card, you get a gray cube. And I was like, well, that's great, but I don't have an orange card. And all of a sudden I'm like having a card that's building off of that. And so then I'm like, but it kind of guided me when a card like that did pop up. Now I'm kind of guided. You're getting nudged. You create this ramshackle engine that is nudging you towards building more into the ramshackle. And then you get this random piece for your engine. You're like, well, I don't even know I have this. And then like as the game develops, these things that felt random in your tableau, suddenly you find uses for them. And then you find ways to piece them together. And out of nowhere, you start developing something that all kind of works together. And I think that way of, as Paul said, making the lemonade out of lemons, I think that's
crap.
Actually,
I said,
out of crap, making crap lemonade. For me, that is one of the joys of the game, is that in this during this duress of what the game is forcing you to do, and given that like you are pulled in all these directions, and it feels like you just can't do anything, the fact that you are able to assemble something actually out of these pieces is like. I think it's very fun and very exciting.
It's interesting you say it, because like I hear what you're saying, and I go like, oh, this is the same philosophy that Ben goes into with 18xx, and I think it actually is a very healthy philosophy when you go where basically someone who like me who comes in to 18xx with a Age of Steam background, I invariably look at Age of 18xx as a procedural operational game, an operation. Train game, where with all the stocks it winds up being a portfolio management game in theory, but like there's that balance between like stocks and if you can look at it as the whole as opposed to individual components, I think you have a much more rich time playing in 18xx. And in this game, like the way that Tom described, and I go like, oh, this is interesting, because like Tom describes it as like this is a delivery game. And because that's the thing that interests you, like it's pretty, and but you were looking at it as a whole game where like it's totality, where it's not a delivery game, it's not an area control game, it's not a build your crap engine game. It's the utility, the totality of all of that. It's something else. And the way that you approach that game, I go like, oh, I suppose in the way that Ben is describing, if I just let go of the fact that it's not any of the 4 things that I think it is, and it's something emergent from that, I think I would have a better time. Because
maybe, I mean, I guess I don't look at it as a delivery game, but that was the thing that looked the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the card game is not optional.
100%.
You must play this. You must play this card game, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. You might play the pickup and delivery game. You might not.
Well, this is
to certain degrees.
But like for me, in my case, when Paul and I played, the way that my engine started to develop was that I was doing the money game, and I was all about just getting like big cash and taking it to the market and getting big points. And then I just sort of I grew everything out of that, and it went from there. And then this game that we played, one of my first cards I got gave me a discount on getting like being able to claim a spot in the city. So then there was another card that came out, and this, by the way, could speak to. You have to be okay with the flop in this game because it's going to work for you. It's going to work against you. It's just one of those games. But like then
Big trouble.
A card came out that said, "Oh, whenever you claim a spot in the city, you get a coin." So I'm like, "Oh, well, now I have a card that says I get a discount when I place, and now I just took a card that says when I place I get a coin." So I'm already starting to be like, "Okay, well, I'm going to focus on what I can do with this." And then I had some other things, and my game wound up being placing a lot of things in the city, and then that fueled me being able to then just go all of a sudden have a late game surge with the delivery, and that was exciting for me.
But I will say, like, you're speaking from a lot of privilege in the fact that your pieces eventually came together. There are 3 other people at the table whose pieces may not have come together.
I think I ended up within 5 points of you at the end, but nonetheless.
By the way, it was a really close game. The pieces
with an 18-point swing with that last card.
Yes.
Oh, because but either way, but truthfully, if Tom had really known what that card was when he drafted, he would have taken it.
Correct.
So, yes, like my engine did come together. And it's definitely possible for an engine not to come together. But also, I feel like this might be also one of those areas where, like, I'm bad at bidding, I'm bad at auctioning, I'm bad at area control. Although I did well at area control last night. Well, that's not really area control; it's more just getting presents. But maybe my skill set is that I can recognize that will go well with that, and that will go well with that. Maybe that's my thing. And I'm not saying it's not that you guys can't do that well. But
it sounds
Paul and I think that's what he said, though.
I think he said, like, you small brains can't see the game, but
when you say which is not
things I'm good at.
But when you say which is not to say that I'm saying blah 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 blah, that doesn't absolve you when you literally just did that.
Well, I guess I'm just saying is that, like, you guys are upset
smart
that your pieces didn't come well together, but I was often in 3rd or 4th in turn order.
I would like to play this game again, but without Ben.
Sure.
I think it might, because that might be the problem.
Because he's too smart.
Because he's just too smart.
No, I'm saying
he's just too.
I respect that your engines didn't come together.
I think
but
he's too
also,
evolved.
like, is that the game's fault or is it player fault?
Well, once again, because of how the card flop is, like, it's really, you don't necessarily get to choose what's going to happen. There's a lot of variability in that. And I'm not saying that this is a good or bad. I'm saying, like, your particular perspective lends itself to this because you are, like, if I were to describe it in any way, like the way that you play your games, you are more adaptable than most of us at a game that you don't know how to play. Like without a meta, without anything, you are the most adaptable of our group. Not like the crusty person that Tom is. Who can only play who can only play, like, the delivery game.
Well, I was
wait. I'm looking at an internal Game Brain document, and there is a person that we call Krusty, and it is not me. That is not the descriptor for me.
All I'll say is, because we are running late.
Yes,
is that I did enjoy this game. I think, despite everything that it sounds like I'm saying, I do fully appreciate, like, engines don't just come together.
I want to play it again with you.
Oh, really?
I do. Yeah.
Even though you just kicked me out of the next session?
That might have been
basically the same person. Though, so.
that might have been just my feelings talking.
No. I got it. But, like, what I was really trying to express there was not like, oh, I know how to make an engine. You guys don't know how to make an engine.
And yet it came out so crystal clear.
It came out so crystal clear. Okay,
I don't know what's going on in your headphones, because that's what I heard.
I know how to make an engine, guys, and no one else does. I'm just saying I was late in turn order for most of the game.
Yeah.
And there were pieces that could have been taken away from me, and they weren't taken away from me. And so, and
Well,
then,
you're playing
I'm not
with
saying that's a default.
pretty
because
new
you guys
people.
and you guys needed to.
And you had the OP card.
Yeah, the OP card.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not taking away your game. You won one. Like that was not.
Yeah, you won that game. Now,
By
did
5
you see a
points.
card that no one knew what it meant except for you? Yes, sure.
No,
did you
no,
point it out
you
to
can't,
us?
You
No.
can't play like, I've played Macau, I know this game, and then be like, oh, well, I haven't played this game.
There aren't cards in Macau. It doesn't have that.
What do you mean there weren't cards in Macau?
Nothing. There's nothing like this in that part in
That I
Macau.
can't- that I can't speak to. 'Cause I don't know.
I will say, like, the engine you built was a risky engine where it was going to pay late game stuff. And, that's and it worked out. Like I'm not crapping on what you created. I'm just saying that, like, there's a lot of variability on how things happen. In being first to pick is not always going to be the best, especially if there's nothing available. Like if all 6 cards are not in alignment with your engine, you are now you're stuck with, like, oh, I have this piece that doesn't fit,
Right.
and
The game is 12 rounds long, and I think one of the reasons why it's 12 rounds long is to give you space to not only build these things, but also, like, when you do have these spare parts that you don't know how to use, there's ways to adapt and pivot. And I think that's key. And I did have a strong card, but also, and I'm not saying this like you guys should have done this, because everyone has different things that they're dealing with at prioritize. But no one cut me off I made a giant network at the end. And my card was strong, but only because it allowed me to make a huge network. And
I tried to cut you off, but
yeah,
I needed help, and the person who was next to me didn't help me.
And so that is an area where actually there may be more interaction there than meets the eye, because it is important to say not only, like, oh, Ben looks like we need to cut Ben off at the pass, and what cubes do you have coming down? What cubes do I have coming down? There's more. But I think that it's a hard ass game.
But, like, I would say that there would be no reason for me or Tom or even head of the pack Nick.
Nick, if this game was 9 turns instead of 12 turns, Nick won that game.
And I was far behind.
And this is why we wouldn't block you, because you were in last place for all of 9 rounds. Why would we block you? Because we don't know if your engine's going to come together. Right. And
we're not. Right. People position Paul and I as bullies. We are not bullies. Okay.
We are not just bullies.
We're not simply bullies.
You're just people who didn't have foresight to see.
100%. We don't know we can.
We're not going to beat the heck out of the guy that just seems to be just trying his best. We're not going to go after that person.
This, to me, believe it or not, this actually makes me like the game more. This conversation of, like, why would you stop me? Because I was all the way in the back, and that's like, ooh, how interesting that the game allowed that.
There was a point where Tom was like, why would you block me, Tom? And Tom's like going, because I can. Because I'm a bully.
All right, well,
you showed me your throat.
To be continued. Obviously, we have a lot of hot takes on this. Tom and I are going to play it again. So
yes.
we'll see. You don't have to play it again. If you don't like it, you don't have to play it again.
I wanted to give it another whirl.
Okay.
I want to see you play with Jordan, Ben. That's what I want to see.
I don't know if Jordan would like this.
I don't care.
Okay. Anyway, sort of a mixed review from us. I was on more of the positive side. Yeah. You guys just seem to be a little bit.
I think a mixed review is very fair.
Yeah,
I think that's
fine.
true.
Not all games can be like raves, but I personally liked it, and I just want to say one last thing. Macau is available to play on the website Yucata, and so if you kind of want to dabble your toes in sort of like the foundations of this game and see how you like it, I think you will still. The games are close enough that if you play Macau, you will pretty much know if you're going to want to play.
If you want the bare knuckle version,
give it a try, give it a whirl, and then you'll have an idea. But I personally enjoyed it, and the other thing is this game, this version, Amsterdam, comes with some built-in expansions and modules that we did not play with.
Right.
So that's a sort of a big important asterisk, because I'm sure there will be people out there that say, oh, well, if you're feeling a certain sort of way about the game, play with this module, it might help.
Sure.
So full transparency there, we did not do that. That being said, You've been listening to Game Brain, produced and edited by Matthew Robinson, Tom Donnelly, Trey Alsop, and Ben Mandelker. Special thanks to Daedalus for our incredible music. More on Daedalus at GameBrainPod.com. And thanks to Edamar Peleg for our incredible graphics. Be sure to check him out on Instagram at Kerbuloni or on his website, Kerbuloni.com. You can reach us by email at contact@GameBrainPod.com. Thanks for listening. And go play some games with friends or make some friends with games.
Ow.